bringing together all the leaders of these trauma training courses. Okay. So maybe we can start with
Yeah.
the Q&A. This is from Mohan Diaz.
Yeah. So we
Excellent
had,
program, excellent
yeah, exactly. So some of
presentations.
them,
There's a question
yeah,
to
the
Professor Beaufort.
Q&A,
Thank
I
you
think,
very much. Do you
Yeah,
teach soft skills in the STC course,
the answer
Professor?
is yes, we do. And that's very much an integral part of it. Um, the, uh, the skills come down into the non-technical skills, in other words, the soft skills. And yes, there is a whole kind of assessment and the encouragement. I think there are two key secrets here. One is the small groups, because the group interaction with somebody kind of supervising makes a huge difference. The hard skills are important, but we all have grown up with the professor of surgery. You know, tomorrow will probably be Tuesday, but it's with your permission, sir. That's long since gone. So I think, yes, absolutely. Soft skills, just like flight crew training, is strongly advised. Um, with regard to the question of possibilities of remote learning of practical surgery, we can teach what you should do, yes. We can probably video it, but the simulation becomes more of a problem. Now, I was privileged, and it's a double answer. We all too reliant on CT scan. But if you go into International Space Station, what do you do if you have somebody badly injured there? Well, there's two things. One, yes, they do have a CT scanner, and they're very clever. One of the airlocks is the ring of the CT scanner. And if you need a scan, you put on the board, and the board spins through the scanner, as opposed to the scanner spinning over the table. The second is again at USUS in Bethesda. They built virtual skills lab where, rather like the Da Vinci robot, you can suture and whatever else, and you have the real tissue skills. The only problem is I don't have to tell you how expensive a Da Vinci is. And so remote surgery, learning of practical surgery at this stage, in my opinion, but the panel would be wonderful to hear theirs. I think what you should do is fine. How you should do it, probably okay, except that there's no one really to pick up on the mistakes early. When you should do it depends on the tissue that you're working on at the time, and I think that's the rate limit. But I'd be interested to know what all our other panelists think.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Amit, would you like to read the comments in the chat box?
yeah, Professor
Yeah.
Rizal Imran is asking, ready or not, we should start thinking of DSTC virtual for Malaysia. If not, we will never start. This is for Professor Ken to answer, probably.
I'm delighted to hear it. As you probably know, every 2 years, YATSIC and ISS hold its major global meeting, and we are due to actually be in Kuala Lumpur. It was in August this year, but for obvious reasons, we'll be in August next year. We would like to see and will assist the Malaysians in every which way we can to launch DSTC in Malaysia. And I agree with you. If you don't, you will never start. And there are other courses and other techniques where we can go a long way to addressing this. So probably best offline directly with my colleagues in Malaysia. And the two office bearers we're dealing with at the Malaysian College is April Roslani, the current president, and Cheng Ha Yip is the president-elect of the International Society of Surgery. Elmin Stain, very involved, and it's a question you should possibly even address to her as president of YATSIC in your meeting this time next month. But we think that we should be ready to do all except the actual hands-on practical skills by then, and look forward to welcoming you to them.
Thank you, Professor Ken. I myself, sort of wanted to ask you one question. India has been very, very late in initiating DSTC. We've been talking about, and I and Tina also had a long talk about introducing DSTC. Unfortunately, our law of the lands are very strict regarding the animal issues. So would a combination course like Professor Narayan is also here, like an asset, but again, you know, in that particular course, again, you cannot induce injuries, there's bleeding. So would a blended course, and are there any, you know, sort of agencies or companies which would, I still remember Johnson & Johnson is one company which runs a lab in India, in Mumbai. So would it be possible through a company, I mean, and their facilities, we can take over and start DSTC here, or is it a taboo for DSTC to align with any major surgical companies?
Lots of questions. Firstly, in terms of the skills, there's the whole spectrum from the primary trauma care course through to ATLS. Yatsik actually runs and has run it extensively in India, as you probably were, particularly in Gujarat. But right across India, I've been very privileged in teaching the National Trauma Management course. The National Trauma Management course is partly run by the Academy of Trauma in India. And we've done that in everywhere. We've had 16 different major cities in India where that course is run. Now that course is run on tissue specimens, not live. And for example, if you like, just teaching the correct techniques for cricothyroid and tracheostomy is very, very easy to do on a sheep or a goat trachea. And there's a lot of laboratory things that can be simulated. You're quite right. There are a number of organizations which can help. And we have we won't co-brand with anyone, but all of these courses are expensive. I've worked and had the privilege of working in the Johnson & Johnson lab, actually in Mumbai, but also in Germany and in Japan, which was at Sendai. And they've been very active in these labs, for example, in developing some of their hemostatic patches and so on. And so you end up with making holes in pulsatile vessels. The pulsatile vessel happens to be dead tissue, fresh dead tissue, with a pump. And some of these are called perfused cadavers. I'd have to say, one of the animal rights people wrote to a very senior colleague of mine in America and said, can we do this? And he wrote back and said, if you have money, then you can do it in a perfused cadaver. Unfortunately, heaven preserve his spell check, the letter to them told them that they should use perfumed cadavers, which wasn't quite what he was trying to say, I think. But the answer is yes, we're going there. Yes, it's cost. No, if we're aiming for the target audience, the reality is we can't do it without trade. And you need allies who are not going to hijack it, allies who are going to support it. I'd have to say companies like KCI and 3M, I'm naming a few, Covidian, Johnson & Johnson, B. Braun, and a number of the other companies have been hugely supportive in making this a global initiative. So yes, I think it's possible. And I think that COVID, look, the only thing that is 100% predictable about COVID is its unpredictability. But I think the reality is that there will be benefits. I'm zoomed out, but I still think that the way we teach will have permanently changed to some extent.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Amit, can I ask Professor Nareen?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, Professor Nareen, all of these courses, the issue is about cost. My question is, how much does it the need to get into the asset training in Thailand, and can surgeons from other parts of the region go to Thailand for the asset?
Yes, of course. Actually, the cost of using the cadaver in 4 centers in Thailand is different. average, the Prehospital Surgeon of Thailand is the owner of this course from ATS. So we set the registration fee. It's about 12, no, let's say 1,200 US dollar per one people who come from abroad. In my center, if I doing this course for my residents, it's free because the people who donate body, it's Buddhist, and donate for people in my center, so they do not think about the any registration fee. But anyway, the committee of the College of Surgeons of Thailand has been approved the cost of registration fee for every center. It's about 1,200 US dollar. And if you would like to join, you can even write to me or write to the chair of Committee of Trauma of the College of Surgeons of Thailand that you would like to join this course. And they could send you somewhere in this 4 part of Thailand, even in Chiang Mai, Southeast, or in Bangkok. Right.
I would like to be in Chiang Mai and be one of your residents for a while. So
Yeah, appreciate that. You're always welcome.
To Professor Liu. Professor, we
Yes.
did one ATLS course last month. That
Yes.
was in January. Okay.
Yes.
But we deferred the skills part because of the surgence of the new strain of COVID.
Mm.
So up to now, they haven't had their skills, the skills part of the training. So my question is, can we just do the didactic first and do the skills part later on when the conditions are favorable?
Well, well, you can always do that, but educationally, I don't think it makes the best sense because you are supposed to enact, if you like, what you've learned from the didactic.
Yes, you must
during
apply it immediately.
and then but this is a strange time. I don't think people will disqualify people who have passed the course that way, but I don't think educationally is the best arrangement, really. I don't know whether Ken has any view on that. I mean, separating the interactive discussions with the from the practicum.
The participants from that course didn't have their certificates yet because they haven't finished the course. So
Yes,
they're still waiting for the schedule of the skills.
Yes, I mean the certificate is one thing, but the actual learning experience, I think it's another. I don't know whether Ken has any thought on that, separating the two.
It's very difficult because the problem is that I don't want to sound arrogant, but a little knowledge can sometimes be a dangerous thing, unless you can link the how, the when, and whether.
Why?
Having a modular course where you pass individual modules without understanding how to link is fine until something goes wrong. So I think that's going to be the rate limit.
I think
because of
the, so because of the COVID pandemic, India was running about 24 sites. We've started this year about 10 sites right now, face to face, but obviously there are ifs and buts and local things going on in terms of logistics. But yes, with the mask and with the social distancing, with PPEs, as Professor Ken said, for any practical course, we have managed to do at least across 10 centers, at least 15 courses in India. But again, as I said, it's all very local. I mean, how the local authorities view it, how the logistics of the centers work. But yes, it has been done, including the instructor courses also, which were hybrid in nature, in which the faculty of ATLS instructor course, as well as the educators would do the interactive discussions on Zoom meetings. And then, with the camera, the performers of micro teaching or other things would actually take their pieces, and then on a live basis, a feedback or a critique could be given to an instructor. So we've performed about 4 hybrid instructor courses, about 15 face-to-face courses. But again, it's a local challenge. Ultimately, it depends upon wherever you are. So generalization is not possible. But I would agree with Professor Ken and also Professor Gilbert Leung that, you know, the whole educational format of either ATLS or DSTC is such that you would actually combine a theoretical knowledge with the related skills. And that is lost once you dissociate those two. Yeah, that's my view on it.
But I can see the difficulties involved here with the arrangement. Yeah.
To Miss Karen, there was a comment here from, which I cannot see right now. It's from Dr. Pauline Convocar. I think you know her. Dr. Pauline Convocar is the past president of the Philippine College of Emergency Medicine. She was asking what are the recommendations for your EMS people in responding to pre-hospital care in the background of COVID.
As in what type of protocols they follow?
Yes.
Okay, they will have to wear the full PPE when they respond to cases, together with the N95 mask and the face shield in these times.
Okay, so full PPE, that's a level 4 PPE.
Yeah. So it's quite tough for them.
About any modification in the ambulances?
As to the modification, it's the wipe downs and the turnaround time of the equipment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That was from Dr. Pauline Convocar. Any more questions from the group? There was a comment here from Surendra Paul. No, I have not done the DSTC course. I work in Sri Lanka for 20 years, and for the first 5 years, I work in the accident service of the General Hospital, Colombo. I have had wide experience in trauma for the second half of my career, has been in the UK. I am retired now and teach on the anatomy course in Cambridge on cadavers. I have a couple of occasions taught in the surgical skills course of Imperial College. So that was just sharing from Surendra Paul.
Any other questions from the panelists who are sitting here, very eminent trauma surgeons?
It's from Dr. Ted Herbosa from the Philippines. I wonder if 3D virtual technology will be the future for simulation. I think Professor Ken partially answered this one. Can you elaborate on that, Professor Ken?
If you've got lots of money, anything is possible. If you've got lots of money, you're probably in a country, if you exclude South Africa and the United States, which is not regarded as a war-torn country. You know, I have been working in Sweden, and in Sweden, I hope there are no Swedes in the audience, the commonest cause of death is probably suicide from boredom when your winter night is 18 hours of darkness. And the Swedes have had to do a big catch-up learning how to deal with major trauma. So you've got to understand that you need enough trauma that it provides experience, enough resources, and enough teachers to be able to apply the experience. And if one of those is missing, that's where DSC tries to help. But it's a big gap. Unless you have money, I don't think we're ever going to bridge it with proper resources. Therefore, you have to apply what is available in your country and do the best you can for the most.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Professor Ken is right. You know, I had the opportunity of working once with ambulance simulators, you know, sort of 3D virtual Google sort of glasses and things like that, haptic, you know, sort of gloves, and you could actually feel what was happening. But again, you know, it is obviously all those algorithms are under research. Number two, you need a lot of money, and it's just impossible for countries like where we are right now and what we are discussing to be there. I won't say it won't happen, but at least for a decade from now, affordable technologies like virtual 3D, sort of simulations in medical sciences are pretty far off. So we have to manage and bridge up that gap till that time.
DSTC has a role because obviously there is, as I indicated, a lot of critical care. And it's the critical care which says blood transfusion is an admission of failure. If you have to provide blood, it's probably because the patient has bled. And if you don't have blood, you can't throw your hands up in the air. Maybe the attitude is, how do I stop the patient bleeding so that they don't need the volume of blood transfusion? And the figure that I can give you is with relatively inexpensive techniques, and we were involved in it using a substance called Novo 7, recombinant factor 7, which is around $10,000 per dose per patient. The average patient blood loss was around 20 units of blood. That was in the year 2000. With basic damage control and a few other techniques, we are now sitting with the average loss of these massive patients of 8 units. We've dropped the blood loss, not through the surgery we've done, but perhaps through the surgery we don't need to do. I've got the privilege of coming back in 2 months' time, so I suppose the correct answer is stay tuned. And the title of my lecture in two months' time at this meeting is the treatment of bleeding is to stop the bleeding. So let's see where we go. But I think the more a doctor, even in a limited resource area, can know about how the patient's body is functioning and how they respond to what you do, the more lives we are likely to save with the resources that we have at the moment.
Right. I think absolutely right. Dr. Andy, would you like to add anything?
Yes, there was a good comment here from Kathy Rensan. Prevention of trauma is given less priority, especially in third world countries, so it makes most of the economic resources.